What up, IDS Mob? It's your boy Harry Wilmington here. Welcome to whatever this is. This is the weekend edition of the Introvert Dating Success Show. And so today we're going to be talking about a couple of things. For one, we're going to talk about when you should ask a woman for a second date. There's a guy going through a situation whereby he took a girl on a date successfully. And so he wants to plan a second date. And his plan was to follow my method, which was to wait a few days before reaching out to her to ask for the date. And so what happened was after that first date, she contacted him. And so now he's like, we had the first date. She's texting me a lot. At what point do I need to ask for the second date? Because I don't want to screw this up. I don't want to have it be too soon to where she thinks I'm desperate, but I don't want to wait if she's still texting me a lot. And this is a lot of advanced stuff we'll go into because if you've been doing everything wrong to this point, you've been made to believe you got to be the one to take her on a date. You got to be the one to text her afterwards. You got to be the one to hit her up the following day to say you had a good time again. You need to have banter with her, and then you will eventually ask her for a date. And I found doing that usually resulted in the woman losing interest. But what happens when you start doing the right things? Nobody talks about when you start doing the right things, you're going to be getting new reactions to what women are doing with you. And if you don't know how to handle those things or what your next move should be, then you can still end up tripping up. So we're going to get into that in a second. But first, I wanted to give a general note to guys out there that are touchy-feely guys, all right? So here's a scenario. I went to a celebrity party last night. This is not me bragging. I do video work. I have a photo booth, and both of those things were invited to go to this event that was happening here in LA. So I was doing video stuff, and I was asked if I had a photographer. So I ended up hiring my brother's god sister's daughter, who's like 26 now. She just started doing photography like many months ago. And so I said, hey, it'll be a great opportunity. You can come out, you'll get pictures of celebrities, you can add it to your profile so you can start charging higher rates for your stuff, right? And so at the end of the night, we're going over stuff. How'd you do on the, you did, I saw her do a great job on the red carpet. She was taking all kinds of pictures. It was great. She was making connections with people here and there. And so she told me that there was this one guy that she had made a connection with, and she has a boyfriend back home. So this isn't like a connection like, oh, I was romantic. It was like, oh, no, legitimately, she's trying to do photography. And so he's like, oh, yeah, I got events coming up left and right. I got the BET experience coming up because that's what happens here in June is BET comes and does their award show. And he's like, yeah, this other stuff, blah, blah, blah. And so what she said was like, at first it started off where it seemed like, he was trying to connect in that way. And then he noticed that he was kind of putting his arm around her a little bit and then like being a little touchy-feely. And she didn't know what to make of that. And she didn't know at that point if he was trying to actually like do business with her or trying to hit on her. And what I told her was I had seen the guy that she was talking about, and I'd gotten into a conversation with him where he was also very touchy-feely. Like he was just like, oh yeah, man, blah, blah, blah. And he would touch my arm and he would, say, oh yeah, 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 and like tap my shoulder. Like, so that's a situation where that guy, he could very well have been trying to hit on her and try to, cajole her, do whatever. But also he was just a touchy-feely guy to both men and women. And for guys out there that are touchy-feely, because I'm like, for me, unless I know you, I'm not trying to be touchy-feely. And then even if I do know you, especially if you're a dude, I'm not trying to touch on you at all. But if girls that I know that are touchy-feely, I'm giving a hug when I first see them. And then during the course of the time hanging out, I'm not doing anything. And then at the end of the hangout, give them another big hug. And like, that's it, right? So the problem with being a guy that's too touchy-feely is that you're thinking this is just part of how you interact, and you're trying to make people comfortable, and you talk with your hands. And so you're thinking that this is going to be no big deal. And to everybody, it's generally not something that you're going to get called out for. Like, for example, I'm at a celebrity event. For me to be like, dude, dog, stop touching me. What are you doing? Like, I'm going to be showing out in front of a bunch of people that I want to do business with. And so I'm not going to say nothing. The girls that are there are not going to say nothing. And so you might be thinking it's no big deal. To most people, it's a big deal, but especially to women that are just meeting you for the first time. None of them want to be touched by you. Even ones that you think you have that you think if you're a guy, you think the girl has the hots for you or is like really, really liking you, until she's the one to break that touch barrier. I can assure you it is always a better idea to not do any touching, because you're thinking, I'm just touching her during the conversation and it's no big deal. I do this all the time. That girl does not know you. And like I said, I had the conversation in the car with this girl who I do know afterwards, telling me she wasn't sure what to make of it because she thought she's trying to do business. And now it's all of a sudden he's touching her a lot and trying to say, oh, yeah, let me get your contact and this is that, whatever. We can do, link up later and do whatever. And it's like, I told her, I said, he could very well be a guy that is trying to eventually lead you down this path of being able to seduce you and use his connections to get you guys along with each other. That could be a thing. But also, he could just be a touchy guy that just doesn't know how the whole thing of boundaries that people typically have when they first meet people. But as a guy, you're not going to be given the benefit of the doubt, especially by women. All women are going to know is they got around you, they were having a good conversation, and then you started getting touchy when they weren't giving any signals on their end of things that would indicate that she wanted that to happen. And now you go from being a guy that she's cool with to a guy that is seen as creepy. And I'm sorry to say, if you're a touchy-feely guy, that I know you're not trying to give that off, you're not trying to make that impression, you're still giving that impression whether you want to or not. And so that's why I advise you to not do that with people until such a time as though you've understood from her that she wants that. And you'll know that when she starts being touchy-feely. If she's not doing that first, she probably does not want it or need it from you. And this will help you not just in your dating life and in your romance life, but at large. You may be a guy that's trying to do business deals with women, and you're thinking, it's so great, but you're a touchy-feely guy. You start trying to touch her at the wrong time, you got a harassment suit. At the very least, you got a woman that's no longer going to work with you because she doesn't think you understand the concept of boundaries. And again, most women aren't going to want to verbalize. Heck, I have a hard time verbalizing that as a dude, So women especially, they are not going to be the ones to try to do that. So I just wanted to put that out there because I know you touchy-feely guys mean well, and I'm not necessarily trying to make people feel uncomfortable, but you need to be mindful that that's probably what's happening. Okay. Anyway, so on to the question at hand. So this guy wrote me this past week, and I'm sorry I couldn't get back to you faster, dude. I had this event I was working on last night. I was working on that all week, so I didn't do a lot of lives this particular week. But also, if you pay for coaching, then I set those up a lot faster because this is the free stuff, which I like doing. But also, if you're wanting faster answers, then you're going to have to sign up for coaching for that kind of stuff. So hopefully this is still going to be able to help you in spite of the fact that it's a few days after you wrote me. But anyway, so this guy wrote me about this interesting situation, and it involves him wanting to know when to ask this girl on a second date. The reason he's questioning when to is because she's been texting him almost nonstop since the date, and he's wondering when would be too soon to ask it. So let's get into his question. He says, "Hi, Harry. I went on a first date yesterday. To be honest, it was a standard first date. Fairly awkward, but not a bad date." Well, ideally, as the guy, you're starting to lean more into the awkwardness of these first dates to where they're not going to feel as awkward, because ultimately, we want you to be projecting out to the girl that you're confident, that you're out there to show her a good time, and that you have all the common sense in the world that you're going to be able to treat her right to where she's going to have a good time. We want to make sure you have that confidence going forth. Anyway, so he says, question, how long should I wait until I ask her on a second date when she decides to continue the convo post-date? For full context, we matched online and kept everything on the app. Have not exchanged numbers as of this time. Well, I would say this. Usually, if I go on when I'm on the dating apps, I don't do the thing of asking for numbers to try to move from a conversation on a dating app to the phone. That's stupid. The app's already on the phone, right? But I will say, after I meet the person in person and it feels like a successful first date, usually at the end of that date, I will ask for their number, because I don't think at that point I need to continue to talk to her on the dating app. And it's not that it's wrong to do that. You could totally stay on the dating apps and talk to her until such a time as though you feel comfortable enough to ask for the number. I'm just saying my typical mode of operandi is I ask for the number at the end of the date if I feel it went well, right? But anyway, so he says, in the date, we asked each other questions, had a few laughs, but no kissing, hand-holding, etc. Ended the date with a hug before we parted ways. Fantastic. He says, she texted me later in that night saying she had fun, thanked me for taking her out, and to let her know when I got back home. So I want to point this particular point out for the rest of you guys, because this is something that I talk about, where I talk about the fact that you as a guy should not be doing things at the end of the date, like saying, hey, we should do this again sometime. Or, hey, I really liked you. We should totally see, when are you free for another date? Like, you want to leave an air of mystery for her, because when you do that, it helps her to anticipate. When am I going to hear from him again? When is he going to ask me out again? And anticipation is the building block for a woman to start building interest for you outside of you being there in front of her and outside of you having to do anything. And this is a great example. As you can see, this guy got to the end of the date and he didn't try to send her an after date text. He didn't get back to the car and say, let me know when you get home. And so what I found is when you do that as a guy, if it's a great way to be able to tell if a woman had a good time on a date, because if she had a great time, she's going to let you know. Like, you'll get home and it might be an hour or 2 hours later, you're going to get that ding on your phone saying, just want you to know I had a great time, because she's already going into the mode of, I need to do things to prove to him that I like him, starting with showing extreme appreciation for him taking me out. Women that don't have a high level of interest aren't going to do that, you know? And even some women that have like a low level thing of interest in you, they might still be thinking about, oh, well, he's the guy, and so I got to play my role as the woman and not text him. But I'm telling you, women that have high interest, they cannot help but reach out to you. And that's what happened here. He got home or whatever, and then she's already texting him saying, I had fun. Thank you so much again, blah, 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 blah. Exactly. That is the natural order of things that should be happening when you're dating people, okay? So anyway, that happens. He says, I sent a response a few hours later saying that I got home, had fun, glad she had fun, and got home safe with a smile emoji. Now, notice he says he waited a few hours. This is also key. He didn't do the thing of, I got our text and thought, oh my God, I got to text her back right away. This makes him look to the woman as if he is a guy that has other things going on in his life besides her. He's not just sitting by the phone waiting for the girl he just went on a date with to hit him up to be able to start a conversation. And again, women want to also see that, because they want to think you're a man that's about the world and that you have other things going on other than pining for a girl that you hope it's going to work out with, you know? So he's making all these right moves. And as a result of that, this woman is already starting to like reach out to him and try to talk to him more. Okay. So then after that, he says, I wake up this morning and find that she is continuing the conversation online, on the dating app. Nothing too crazy. She just said that she's glad I made it back safe and asked how my train ride was. So here's what's also happening here, right? And this is also key for especially you guys who are doing online dating. What you want is when you ask a question to a woman, that she's going to answer that question and then respond back with another question. That signals that she's legitimately interested in finding out what's going on with you or how you're doing, all right? And so when women are asking you questions back, that is another high key sign that indicates that she is starting to build high interest. And that is always a good thing. So everything because of the moves that he made, and the moves he made were the right moves, she's responding in the right way, which is she's the one reaching out. She's the one asking him how he's doing. She's the one asking him, did you get home safe? In other words, she's the one that is now chasing. And if she's chasing you, she can't be replacing you. So the fact that she's already at this level is very good. So now comes the question. So he says, so she asked the questions and whatever and asked how the train ride was. And he says, I have not responded yet because I'm trying to figure out if I should just ask her out on another date or continue the convo online for 1 to 2 days before asking, what are your thoughts and opinions? So I'll say this. So the typical thing I tell you guys is that your goal is to take a woman on a date, show her the best time possible, and then at the point that you leave from her, you're going to wait a minimum of 4 days to initiate contact with her. But what I'll say is that that's you initiating. If she's the one that initiates contact during that time, obviously, guys, you want to respond back to that. But you got to think to yourself, why is it that she's reaching out in the first place? Aside from what I just said earlier about she's trying to show you that she's interested and she wants to make sure that she's doing things to prove to you that she likes you. The other part is when a woman reaches out, that is a signal that's saying, I want more of your time. I want to see you again. This was such a great date, and I want to be more in your realm. So when women reach out, in short, that means she wants to see you. So this is where we get into a little bit of advanced stuff, because I tell you guys, you wait 4 days to initiate. And then when you initiate in those 4 days, on the 4th day, you're going to hit her up to ask her for another date. You should only be using the phone when you initiate to get another date. So what happens when the woman suddenly is the one that is reaching out to you and asking you about how you're doing and what your day is? Well, understand, very rarely are women early on going to be like, when they reach out to you, say things like, hey, let's go on another date, right? I've had that happen a total of like one time where I went on a date with a girl. We had a good night. And then the next day she was hitting me up. Hey, so wanted to see if you were free Sunday to go to the beach. I was like, oh, snap, that was fast. She's already ready for a second date. And you know what I said? I said yes. Because if it's incoming, that is a good sign, right? This is different from like if you were, you went on a date and then the next day you're the one reaching out. Hey, I had a good time last night. Let's go out again. That is going to seem too needy because that didn't allow her the time she needed to think about you and to miss you to the point where she thought that reaching out to you was her idea, that you weren't forcing her to forcing her to talk to you. She was doing it of her own accord. So when women are reaching out to you, understand that is more often than not, that's going to be a passive sign to you that it's okay to ask her out on another date. So if this had been me, where I get home, she reaches out to me, I had a good time on a date, I'd have done the same thing this guy did, where I'd be like, oh, yeah, I got home safe. So glad you had a good time, blah, 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 this and that, right? At the point where she reached out again and said, hey, so did you make it back safe? And how was the train ride? I'd have been like, oh, the train was great. I was just thinking back on the date and what a great time it was. Hey, you know what? I'm kind of busy right now, but, if you're free later this week, I'd love to take you to insert the name of some activity that's different from the first date. So if I did, for example, if the first date was like dinner and drinks, then I would already have on deck, hey, so, if you're free later this week, I was thinking about going bowling. I'd love to take you. Boom. Now I put another date out there. I already had, because here's the thing, guys, when you're dating, you should not just be thinking about that first date. You need to already have an idea of the next 3 or 4 date ideas lined up. Now, to be fair, during that first date, you should be asking her questions to where you're going to get to learn more about her interests, her likes, what she's into, and that'll help you be a better planner of dates. But there are some generic dates that you can just have that most girls will like. Bowling, hiking, walking around a mall and letting them just window shop, not even buy anything, just window shop and then food court. Like you can already have those 3 dates ready to do at any given time. And then as you're getting to learn her, you can add on other date ideas that you can have for the future. But the point is that you should already have a date idea of some kind ready for that second date. So on the off chance she reaches out, you already have an idea ready to go, because women like guys that plan stuff. So you already look like, oh man, this guy's already got plans. It's coming out the wahoo. He knows how to plan for dates. Like, it's so great. So in this context, at the point that she reached out again, when she's like, hey, how's the train ride? I'd be like, yeah, the train ride was great, blah, blah. But I was just thinking about how fun the date was, and I'd love to do it again. I don't know if you're free this week or not, but I wanted to go bowling later this week. Let me know if you're free on day 1 or day 2. Right now, let's say today's Saturday as I'm recording this video. So let's say she reached out today. I would say, hey, you know what? I was thinking about the date. Love to take you out again. I'm busy today because I don't want to get women to the habit of doing same day dates. I want them to anticipate me, but also I don't want them to think that I'm just sitting around waiting to date her. I need her to think that I'm planning other things outside of her until she becomes more ingrained in my life. So I would say, man, I'm really swamped today, but I'm thinking about going bowling. Let me know if you're free either Sunday or Tuesday, and we can make it happen. Now, at that point, you've put out there a date idea that she can grab onto. All right. So in terms of the other part of the question, which was, would I either do that or would I get on the dating app and talk to her for 1 or 2 more days? The honest answer is, again, I'm not in the habit of using the phone to just build rapport. I'm not in the habit of initiating text to women to just try to shoot this talk shop with them. Like, I really am about, if I'm the one initiating, is to ask for a date, because I found in my personal dating history that trying to build rapport over the phone in the long run is not nearly as effective as building that rapport in person, where she can also experience you. She can smell you, she can touch you, she can hold your hand, she can listen to your jokes, she can hear how you breathe. Like, all those little things are important for women to experience with you in a real setting. And so that's why I don't typically do a lot of banter. If they would initiate text to me that's banter, then I will respond in kind and then end with, oh, by the way, I'm trying to go bowling this week. I'm trying to do a hike this week. I want to let me know if you're free on either day A or day B. Like, I keep it very, very simple. So I would say you could wait 1 or 2 days if you want to, but I would not be initiating combos purposefully just to try to shoot the crap while you're trying to wait for that next time. I would say if you're not wanting to do the date right away, you could say, again, let's say today's Saturday. Oh man, yeah, the catching the train back was so fun. I was thinking back over the date. We should totally do it again. You know what? I'm actually swamped for the next couple of days, but let me know what your Monday or Wednesday is looking like. Now I'm putting out, there's going to be a date I want to take you on in the future, but I'm not going to be on my phone all day talking to you now because I got stuff to do. But I'm thinking about you enough to already anticipate that I want to do another date. So let me know if you're free. So that is ultimately how I would handle that. Now, I think he also put another thing here. He said, also, if this is important, she did not attempt to pick up the check. So he went on the date, and at the end of the date, she didn't try to fight for the check. And I say to that, good. Like, I know there's this thought process going on where guys will be like, well, you know, it should be the thing, like she should try to reach for the check that she's going to pay for it, even though I'm going to, because it shows that on some level she's going to be a giving person and blah, 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 blah. Don't do that. Like, just like I get mad at women when they try to throw these little things out there to see if a guy's going to bite for it. Like that, let's not do that on this level in terms of the pay thing. There are other ways as a guy that you can put things out there that are going to test what kind of woman she is or if she's about you. This is not one of those tests, especially if you're dating a feminine woman that is trying to be traditional on her end of things. She knows that being a traditional woman is not typically her paying for any part of the date on that first date. All right. And so I'll say this, whether the woman that you're on a date with is reaching for the check, knowing full she's not going to pay for it, or she's not reaching for it because she knows you're going to pay for it, let's not use that as the tester for if this woman's going to be giving. Let's use that. Let's do a better version of that test where it's like after 3 dates, she's like, hey, come over to my place and I'll make some food for you. Or, hey, you've been so great on these last few dates. I've got the tip on this one, or I'll pay for the dessert. Let that happen. And women will usually, of their own accord, start doing that kind of stuff after like date 3 or 4. Why is that? Because by date 3 or 4, assuming she said yes to all these dates, you guys have made out, you've hooked up a little bit, she's now starting to invest emotionally in you, which now makes her want to give of you. But for most women on first dates, they don't have that emotional investment. And so if they're not reaching out to you like that, that's fine, because ultimately they're still doing their due diligence about you in purpose of their feelings and how they are around you. And so let this whole attempting to pick up the check thing not be part of that journey. All right. It's just silly. It's dumb. And there's no reason to judge her on that. All right. So hopefully, guy, this answers all of your questions that you had for me in that message. For the rest of you, I hope you learned something. If you did, feel free to consider giving to the Cash App here at $ Harry Wilmington. Also, guys, you can go to my website, introvertdatingsuccess.com, sign up for my 12-week coaching program, which walks you through the ins and outs of how to figure out what your blind spots are as it pertains to dating, help you become the kind of man that you need to be in order to have a more effective dating life, and of course, how to ultimately have the right blueprints so you know going forward how to get the women that you actually want. All right. You can also go there to check out my ebooks, audiobooks, podcast programs, all that great stuff. All right. So that's all I really got today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you guys have any questions you want me to answer on future shows, you can definitely leave comments. You can leave them under any of my videos. You can also write to me like this guy did at harrywilmington@gmail.com or at harry@introvertdatingsuccess.com. So thank you guys for watching. I'm Harry Wilmington, and I will catch you guys in the next one. I'm out. Peace.
You's a bad boy, but you can't stop, won't stop. You a high-earning, high-value, high-class man. You a high-earning, high-value, high-class man. You a high-earning, high-value, high-class man. You a high-class man. You a high-class man. You a high-earning, high-value, high-class man. You a high